Okay, welcome. Let's do the Good Life meditation. I'm doing it today on my motorcycle rather than at my chair because tomorrow I have to report to duty for my first day at work, and I want to get an early start. So I thought I'd do it from my motorcycle because I'm going to Julian to get some apple pie for the family. Let's go. The Good Life meditation for today, the second day. It's actually the first day, but we'll call it the second day because I'll make this available tomorrow. Second day of December 2021. This is my daily remembrance and recitation of my objectives and principles that constitute the life that I want to live. Now, if you're thinking that I'm nervous about tomorrow, you'd be right. I'm quite anxious. You know, it's interesting how as the older I get, the less prone I am to risk. The more I become more risk averse. It's a funny thing. I was in this exact same spot, although not nearly as challenging. What would have been 7 years ago? 2014. When I first came over from Japan to get things ready for my family to join me. And you know that if you follow my channel, that took 14 months before they came over. So there's some interesting comparisons. What would they be called in science? Control cases. For example, the control case here is that I'm going back to essentially the same job, the same employer. Some things are different, but for all intents and purposes, it's the same organization. Now, when I came over in 2014, this is an IT job that I do. When I came over back then, I had a career in IT more than a decade before, but I really wasn't qualified. I had done some things to give myself make myself look qualified, but I really had been out of the game so long I probably wasn't worth considering. But I was lucky. I'm a good talker, so I think I didn't talk myself into it. The manager that hired me, she's way too smart for that. There's no way that I would ever, I wouldn't attempt to pull a fast one over anyone's eyes, but she could see that if I tried. I think she saw that there was some potential despite my long gap in work in IT, and she took a chance with me, and it worked out. It was hard, but it worked out. But at that point, I had very little money. I had quit my good job in Japan. My family was counting on me to succeed. I had a family to take care of. I was the primary breadwinner, supporting two households, although you wouldn't call what I had a household. I was first staying with my brother, and then I got an apartment, and then I lived in a place that I did kind of caretaking for, and then I finally got a place of our own. It was a tough 7 years, and I moved on. I got a promotion, and then was offered a job, offered to apply, or invited to apply for a job at a city, a different place, and got that job, and I think I succeeded there, to a greater or lesser degree. We were through the pandemic. We delivered what we were going to deliver, and we did it within budget, not on time, but we throw in a pandemic, and I think that a large amount of scope change due to that. I think we succeeded. And so I decided to go back to my old job, the one that I came to America for. That's what I'm doing right now. So it took a long time. I waited for the openings, watched for an opening, applied. I had to do some tuning of myself to make myself qualified. I did, and got an interview and got the job, and I start tomorrow. Now, true, we did factor in another household move. We moved instead of moving from Japan to Irvine, from Japan to America, essentially. We're moving simply from one city in Southern California to another, an hour and 20 minutes away, Irvine to Menifee. So the timing couldn't have worked out better. You know, my last day at work at my former job was at the end of October. I literally had the entire month of November off, and I did so much during that time. I really did a lot, including tying up all kinds of loose ends on my book writing. Really did get all of my books, all 4 books are in pretty much a state of completion. You know, two books could use a little more editing, but you know, they're good enough to be called done, right? Because I'm always editing. Plus all kinds of other things were completed as well. It was a very productive month, this last month of November 2021. And then here we are in December. It's December 1st. We're in a new place. We moved. It's a beautiful home. Also, my wife she's not changing her job, but she's changing her work situation. She's going to be working from home beginning tomorrow, and I'm going to be working from home beginning tomorrow. I mean, it's really all the pieces are lined up in a good place. Very good situation, actually. So why am I so anxious? Oh, and the real clincher is, maybe it was too stupid. It was too dumb and naive, ignorant. And I can't say I was young. 7 years ago, I was in my, 50, just 50, when I came to America. I wasn't really nervous about the job. I guess I was cocky. I thought I had it. It was hard though. Hold on, I gotta sneeze. I really had to work hard to earn my position. You know, I've said it before, they probably should have fired me within that first year, but I think I redeemed myself within the second year. And then I went on, like I said, I got promoted, and then the leader of that organization, when he went on to the city of Ventura, he invited me to come join him. So I guess that's acknowledgement that, you know, I found my way back, right? So, and I succeeded in Ventura. At least I like to think so. And now I'm back in Riverside. And so the interesting thing is, before, 7 years ago when I came, I was an unknown quantity. I probably got hired. It probably shouldn't have hired me. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. What's worse is I didn't know that I didn't know what I was doing, and I thought I did, which, you know, is a bad combination. You know, the old Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Not knowing that you don't know, and thinking you do. So why am I so nervous? I mean, see, the thing I threatened now twice to explain, but I haven't done, and I'll do it now this time right away, is that I'm going into this job. I'm a known quantity. These are people that I have worked with before. Everybody, for the most part, are all people, my coworkers before, and they're hiring me to do something that I know how to do, and I think I'm pretty good at it, and I can do this. So it's not like before. It's not like before, like they're hiring an unknown quantity. And I took a demotion, right? The city of Ventura that I went to, I actually joined the manager ranks, and I decided to come down for this job because I really don't want to be a manager. I gotta check my route guide here. I think I'm going straight. Excuse me here. Hold on. Let me check the map. There we go. I don't want to be a manager. I don't like. I like leading groups as a project manager where nobody reports to me. I'm not responsible for people's work ethic, or, you know, showing up on time or dress code or anything like that. I'm responsible to manage the the tasks and to make sure that they deliver their deliverables. And if I have issues with them, I take that up with their supervisors or managers. It's just my character. I'm just not interested. I'm just not interested in climbing that ladder. I certainly have no. I think the highest I may want to go, and maybe even not that high, is supervisor. And now that I've been a manager for 2 years, I could probably qualify for applying for such a job, and I may change my mind someday, but I don't know. But for now, I'm happy being, as I like to say, and I'm very proud to be a worker bee again. It's good to be that. So that's even one less reason not to be nervous, right? Is one more reason not to be nervous is that I'm not going to be what I don't want to be. And I'm going to be working with people that I know and that I like and I get along with, and I know the organization, I know the leadership, I know, I mean, it's a cakewalk, yet I'm anxious. Worst comes to worse, you know, and this doesn't work out. I guess I worry about getting fired. I guess I worry about, you know, not being able to support my family. Fortunately, my daughter's almost done with college, so if I can just get another 2 years and get her through, then all things will be pretty good. Yumiko and I can always retreat back to Japan, back to the simple life that we knew there, a very humble life. In fact, I kind of would like that. So the worst that happens is I have to go back to that. Now I'm sounding like a first world problem complainer, right? So I guess I'd better stop it. Enough of this. But it's nice to record the reality. You know, usually I try to make a transition video at every major transition in my life to capture that feeling. I did that when I lost the old Takedo, you know, when I closed up that old business of mine in Japan. Did it again when I transitioned to come over here. I did it a couple of times in the process of transition here in America, and now I'm doing it again. Okay, but the point of all of this wasn't to complain. I thought, although I think it's interesting to point that out, and I think it's very poignant and worth remembering. And I started this off as my good life meditation, and I'll get back to that. But the reason it's poignant, to the point, why it's relevant, is that there's one of my principles called the risk of avoiding risk, which I'll go ahead and explain that principle now. That is the idea that in life there are surface level risks and there are deep level risks. The surface level risks are things like getting an education, getting a good job, finding someone to share your life with, starting a family, buying a home, saving for retirement, etc., etc. The surface level, the deep level risks, though, are the risk of actualizing on the person who you are, whatever that innate, inherent interests. Maybe it's not inherent, but it's an innate interest or desire of yours. If you have that, some people seemingly don't. But if you're one of those that has such a thing, not doing that. So here's the point. The surface level risks are the ones that we're encouraged to do by our parents and those that care about us, because they make sense. You know, life. That's not every parent that's encouraging their kid to, you know, pick up a guitar and, you know, become a musician, you know, or a poet or whatever the case may be. But a lot of them are encouraging their kids to go to school and get a job, and get married, make kids. My point is that the time for risk, especially for that deep risk, is early for a couple of reasons. One, it comes more naturally. Youth is a time of embracing change and things that are new and stepping away from what we know, the world that our parents gave us. So it's in our nature to do these things. Two, we can recover more easily from injury or financial loss or, you know, a broken heart. 3, we have time to, and this connects with number 2. We have time to recover from our mistakes. So we can recover more easily, and we also have time to make up lost ground. And then 4, probably maybe the most important one. Despite the fact that youth think that they know it all, most of us when we're young are pretty stupid. Which is actually a benefit, because that's the catalyst that will cause us to take risks. And I think it's in our biology. It's part of what we are as biological creatures, is that if we don't take risk, if the young of our species are not pushing the frontier, stepping over the ridge to see what's beyond the next mountain and taking chances, then we don't expand, and we don't explore, and we don't innovate, and our species doesn't grow and change, etc., etc. Oh, I didn't handle that turn so well. You get my drift, I think. So we have to be young to... Well, here we go. I gotta make a lefty. We need to do these things when we're young to take advantage of our youth. Now, like, okay, and the opposite of that is like trying to do it now. Like the simple thing that I'm relatively, it's not simple at all. This transition that I'm attempting to make right now, that I've done many, many times. Yumiko and I have had 17 homes together in 35 years, and I can't, maybe almost as many jobs, and, you know, and I mean, the very first time I did any of this, one of the first times, one of the most memorable was when I came back from Japan the first time and had $2,000 and enough money to buy a truck. $2,000 cash, roughly, after I bought the truck. And I literally just, my wife and I, Yumiko at the time, we were boyfriend and girlfriend. We decided to live in Santa Barbara. We picked it off of a map because we wanted to live someplace nice. We thought it would be hard, why not live in a nice place? And I slept on, I've told this story before, I slept on the beach, didn't have any money, I not a care in the world. I just got up, this is before the internet, got the newspaper, looked at the job listings, tried to find an apartment, and it all worked out. I don't really recall being scared. I remember being exhilarated and thrilled by the whole thing. Isn't this a nice area? Look at this. Wouldn't that be fun to hike out there? Kind of. This is really pretty. Hold on, let me stand up for a second. Oh, I did get caught up. Look at that rock right there. This is nature conservation area. This is really pretty. Wow, it's hard to believe this ride is right outside my door. You know, I can leave my house, and we're going to Julian to get apple pie for the family tonight to celebrate the Yumiko coming home and our new life. And so I'm going to Julian, the little town of Julian, to get us some apple pie to celebrate tonight. Emily wants me to get some apple cider too, and I might get some hard cider too. You get back on that topic. The point was that it was easy back then. What I'm doing now, compared to what I'm doing back then, what I'm doing now is so much easier. Yet it's so much harder, and I know why. I know it's because of my age. I know it's because of my age and my budding frailty. I mean, I almost didn't want to go for this ride. Look at this, how beautiful this is. Good gosh, it's my first time on this road. I think this is called the Anza Highway. It's because of all of those things. My age, my frailty, my mind that's starting to go. All that stuff makes me timid and scared. So the risk then is that if you postpone, if any of us postpone, assuming this is part of human nature, if we postpone the adventures of life until later, we may not be in a position, even though we have the finances and the security, we may not be in the position in terms of courage and the advantage of stupidity to do much about it, and we might wind up just getting on cruise ships all the time. No slight to those that like cruise ships, but you know, it's a safe alternative rather than backpacking through Europe. And also, maybe they're just not interested in that kind of stuff. And see, by the virtue of the fact that we didn't do it when we were young, when we were interested, we lost out on that. We lost out on the stories. We lost out on the character developing experiences, etc., etc. I think the point's been made. So let's get on with my good life meditation. There are 7 objectives. The first of those is to be always ready to die. This is fun to twist through these canyons, standing up on the pegs. Just to always be ready to die, to have my fortune, my family, and my fame. Fame. You know, it's whatever I wanted to say in this world. My books written, my finances in order, my family, I've told them all I love them, etc., etc. Next objective is to make a good and effective use of time, to not waste time, but to take good, whatever that road goes, to respect time. Number 3 is the cultivation of good emotional reactions, to work to react well to the circumstances. Like, wow, a dead vineyard. Wow, look at these old houses. Interesting. Good emotional reactions. Next is the performance of good actions. To simply do good things throughout the day. Next is the recognition of true limits and true opportunity. What I am capable of doing and what I am not. Sometimes what I think I'm not capable of doing, I actually can. You know, go back into that previous conversation or monologue. And then the last one is to do one thing slowly. No multitasking. Okay, the next now we have 17 or 27 principles. These are the principle of war. To always be at war with everything I think is true and everything that you think is true as well. Isn't this beautiful? Look at this. 2, the principle of reason. To use reason as the instrument of identifying what is true and what is not true. And the sub-principles of honesty, objectivity, and doubt. Number 3, the principle of the homunculus, the little mortal who lives inside my head, who will die with me when I die. What's up there? Number 4. Interesting. The Anchorhold, the place where we suffer and die. It kind of looks like an Anchorhold right over there. Somebody's got, see, they got a little tent thing right there on the mountain. I wonder if that's where they're living. Interesting. The Anchorhold is where we, little, you know, imaginary little rock sticking out of an ocean, where each of us sits on one rock, and the tide rises and threatens us, and the tide lowers, and we feel safe. And the waves come, and the wind blows, etc., etc. And we suffer, and we die, and we also have good times on the homunculus. Always alone. Even though we can shout at others across the void, we are nevertheless always alone. Next is the home of good and evil. That's the next principle. Simply a reminder that right and wrong do not appear to come from any outside source. The only mandate that appears to exist for us is the mandate to have kids. Biology rewards us for that. It makes us feel good when we find a mate and have a kid and raise him and watch him grow and then have grandkids, etc., etc. There's something wired in us, and I don't think it's wired in us because of any deity did that. I think it's simply wired in us because if it wasn't, we wouldn't do it and we wouldn't be here. So I imagine all of the ideas about right and wrong are basically our opinions, besides the the idea for procreation, having more of ourselves. And I picture the home of good and evil as like a little, list that's written in chalk above our heads. The little homunculus, not a real thing, but buried in our head, writes it on the hill, inside our skull, and that's our catalog of right and wrong. After that comes, after the home of good and evil comes purpose. There are three purpose in our life. One is the purpose of having there we go. The purpose of oh, and I just talked about it. The purpose of having kids. The other is purpose of living a virtuous life, and the last one is whatever mission we might want to undertake in life. Wasn't that a pretty ride? It sure was. That was the principle of purpose. After the principle of purpose comes the next principle is the atomic principle. Everything is made of bits and pieces, flowing and changing and forever transforming. So too you and me. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Okay, after the atomic principle comes the principle of nature. Everything and everyone has some nature, and it's good to recognize what that is so that we can expect that nature to emerge and not be surprised when it happens. Like it's the nature of a twisty road like this to be dangerous for people to cross the line, for motorcyclists especially to overshoot the turns, go off the edge, etc., etc. And the fact that I'm not wearing any riding gear, I'm wearing shorts and short sleeve shirt, don't tell my wife, it's the nature of such a circumstance that if I were to go down, I would probably get pretty badly wounded. Okay, now I recognize that nature, and keeping that in mind, and that's going to also tie into another principle coming up, the recognition of true limits. Oh, that was an objective, a recognition of true limits and true opportunity. I think I already talked about that one, or maybe I skipped it. So it's a recognition of true limits. It is a limit. And if I'm not going to wear gear, then I'm limited in my protection. And do I have an opportunity to remedy that? I do. I have my gear in my saddlebags. Am I going to avail myself of that? I don't think so. Okay, back to, I guess 57 years old, I guess I'm still an idiot. Okay, back to the principle of nature. We covered that. Next comes the pirate ride. Just the assertion, the assertion that there is no free will, that we don't have free will, that we are pretty much just complex chemical reactions. I know that's a very unattractive idea. Even I want to protest and say, no, that can't be true, but I think it is. I hold that as an article of faith. I can't, if someone asks me to prove it, I can't, but I'm going to believe it anyway, because I don't know. I'm sounding like the religious, right? I don't know. It's just because, you got to have faith, right? It's just, you got to have a relationship with the truth, right? I'm starting to use the same language as the faithful, right? Because I want to believe we don't have free will. Not because it gets me a get out of jail free card, although it does do that, but mainly because I just have this gut feeling that that's the case. So, sue me. Next is that was the pirate ride. The next principle is the principle of maturity, which has two sub-principles, wisdom and fortitude. We are mature when we learn from our mistakes and then have the strength to not make them again. The next principle is the social principle. We are social animals, and we need one another to survive. And our best ends are social ends. It's really a good thing to have people in our lives. The next principle is the principle of public speaking. Using few words, carefully chosen words, and deliberate words. And always speaking about others as though they can hear what I'm saying, so that I can avoid gossiping. Okay, now I've got two principles that work together. The first is the principle of temperance, and the sub-principles, I'm going too fast. Temperance, remember, one thing slowly. The principle of temperance has three sub-principles. Honesty, objectivity, no, that's reason. Suffering, simplicity, and apathy. So temperance has those three sub-principles. Temperance, of course, is our controlled consumption of everything. And we suffer because when we deny ourselves what we want, like I'd like to have another beer, or I'd like to have the 3-piece pieces of chicken special rather than the 2, or you can pick your temptation. I suffer when I say no. Simplicity, because the simple life is a temperate life. And then apathy, because apathy is simply the Julian, 42 miles. Yeah, Julian is the not Julian. Apathy is the recognition of what is not within our control, and being all right with that. What else are you going to do? It's not within your control. Okay, next 2 are also key together. So temperance. Oh no, I didn't do it. I didn't finish it. Temperance has a next one, which is a pair. Never mind what I said about the next 2. So I'm still on the first 2. Temperance, and then the next one is the Feast of Offal. The Feast of Offal is the anger and upset that we spew into the world when we're upset, and that it impacts others and causes them to get upset, and they do the same in turn. And I'm just asking myself to be temperate and to not indulge in that, to hold my emotions in, to manage my emotions, to be stoic rather than to spew them out into the world. See, it's in the nature of a road like this that any one of these cars that comes around the other side could be over the line. I can anticipate that, but to a degree I'm apathetic, because I know there's only so much I can do to guard myself. Now, so the next 2, another couplet, is distraction is one principle, and the second principle is called agency and the great indifference. Distraction is the principle that says that we live our lives distracting ourselves from what we don't want to see. We don't know that. We just distract ourselves because it feels good, like taking a motorcycle trip like this. It feels good rather than sitting home and thinking about work tomorrow. or working too hard. Once I have my job, a lot of my anxiety will go away because I'll be working about my job. I'll be thinking about my job. It's a distraction from these other things that I don't want to see, namely the emptiness of the universe. That's where the agency and the great indifference come in. So we live our life of distraction, work, play, eat, drink, all the things you want to do, hobbies, whatever it is, football, so that we don't have to face the emptiness of the universe and the apparent fact that God is just wishful thinking, that there is no life after death, and that we won't see grandma again, and that person that did the bad thing won't get any final justice. Hitler was not punished; he's simply no more, and so too are the decent ones. They all get the same end. We don't like that, so that's the great indifference, right? The apprehension of the great indifference. So we distract ourselves not to see it. So there we did two couplets of principles. The next principle after agency and the great indifference is the best seat in the house. Now I gotta admit that this is a pretty good seat right here, right now on this motorcycle. The best seat of the house is just a suggestion that I don't want to be anyone else, or be anywhere else, or be doing anything else, but to be just okay with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing right now. And I am pretty content right now. The trick is to feel that way when we're not feeling so good. Like if I was to break down right now, that would really throw a monkey wrench in my plans. If the motorcycle was to break down right now, I'd sit by the side of the road and I have to wait for a tow truck, and it's going to get dark and cold, and I don't have the right clothes, and I have to work tomorrow, and what am I going to do? And oh yeah. But if I could keep my idea of the best seat in the house in that circumstance, then that would be something, right? If I could still keep my balance and equanimity in spite of bad circumstances, difficult circumstances, that would be an accomplishment. The next one is the next principle is the path of wildness. It's easy to find. Let me do that again. I did it too fast. The next one is the path of wildness. The path of wildness is easy to find. The course of a stream, leaves blown in the wind, a beast tracked through the brush, and the direction of our first inclination. The path of wildness is the way upward and forward into and through new life, and that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I am on the path. My wife is on the path. My daughter's on the path as we embark on this new life, this new home, this new school, this new job, a new work situation. It's all on the path. And before long, we'll be settled, and this will be just another chapter, another transition, and I'll have this video to look back on someday and go, man, wasn't that a time? And I'm glad I'm on the path. It would have been so much easier just to stay in the safe and sane. It would have been so much easier just to stay in Japan and settled in deep there. And it would have been easier still just to have stayed in America to begin with, to have never left Humble, to stayed in Arcata. What kind of man would I be if I'd done that? I certainly would have knocked off the surface level risks better. I'd probably have a house that was paid for, and a career that was edging into retirement, and good savings set up, and kids are grown, etc., etc. But would I have that stuff that means so much to me? Would I have my books? Well, maybe I've written other books, but maybe nothing. Maybe my life would have just been another, cookie cutter living. And then what? and then when you die, you're forgotten. And in all likelihood, I'll be forgotten anyway. And that's all right. We all will eventually. But there's something satisfying about thinking maybe you'll be remembered for a while. You feel me by your family. So anyway, that's the path of wildness. Okay, the next principle is the principle of I already covered it. the risk of avoiding risk. Remember, that's what we talked about a long time ago, that surface and deep level risks of life. I already covered that one, so I won't do that one. The next one is the principle of sin and damnation. There are 7 sins in my worldview. Here they are. And they all mostly relate to believing things without good reason. First is the sin of hope. It's a sin to hope, because hope is empty. Hope is nothing. Hope is just sitting at home on Friday night with the drapes open, looking outside, thinking, I hope life will come get me and pick me up and take me out. The next sin is credulity. Just a willingness to believe. Maybe I should switch that around and have that as number 1. The third one is faith. Faith is a sin because faith is choosing to believe something without good reason. I know those that use faith will claim that they have good reason, that their personal revelation is good reason, but that's good enough for you. It ain't good enough, like as they say, personal experience is first. What do they say? What is it? How does that go? It's first person. Revelation is first person or something like that. It's good enough for you, but it ain't good enough if you expect me to believe you. And it depends on how you define the word faith. According to the Bible, what is it? Hebrews 11. Faith is the evidence of things unseen and something about something hoped for. That's nothing. It's just getting you where you want to be without doing the hard work of justifying that. But my feelings. yeah. Good luck with that. There's one just like you in every major religion in the world that's justifying their belief on the same grounds. So, which of you is right? Well, me. Why you? Because I've got my book says I'm right. Okay, enough said. That's another one of the sins. Sin is coming up is a dogma and authority, right? 2 more sins. Is dogma is I'm right because my book says so. In authority, I'm right because someone I really respect says so. And I think, oh, and then there's superstition too. I kind of got them out of order, but that's the 7, I think. Oh, that's the 6. And then there's one more, which is gossip. Gossiping is the sin in my worldview. In the good life worldview. Next is Sin and Damnation. The great life adventure. One or more experiences in life that kind of become the centerpiece of our life. Could be the stories that we tell our kids and grandkids, and the thing that we're so proud of and that we talk about a little too much when we've had a drink. The thing that kind of forms our identity, that is the reason for bumper stickers that we put on our car. Whatever the case may be. That's your great life adventure. I recommend having as much of them as possible, especially during our youth, especially during the decade of the 20s. There's plenty of time after that, maybe, for all the rest. The surface level stuff. Look at this place. What is up with that? Look at that. Motorcycle only parking. That old place. Old car on the roof. Garage 79. It's all closed down though. Runaway Ranch. The next one is the Season of Philosophy. The Season of Philosophy is a time to record what we've learned along the way. A time to share, well, you'll share afterwards, but you got to record it first. And you can use that in words or painting or music or video, storytelling, whatever you want to do. Just tell your story. But do it. Strike when the iron thought. When the muse whispers in your ear, you better get something out, because she'll move on and the words will be gone. The next one is the next principle is the principle of the bullseye aim. We strive for the mark, but we usually miss. Paradise Valley Road. We strive for the mark. Sometimes we hit it. Mostly we don't. So I need to remember that for tomorrow. I'm gonna strive to the mark. To try to do my best to make the best impression, but I'm going to blunder a little bit, or a lot. But my intentions are good. That's important to remember. I need to weave that in there somehow, something about intention. The next principle is the principle of, and I'm near the end now, is the uphill climb. Life is a steady uphill climb. Never seems to end, does it? Just when you think it's leveling off, you turn around and there's more steps to do. You rest for a second. Keep on moving. The next principle is the arena and utility. Life is an arena for the living, and the values, the principles, that we have are the tools that we use to go after our objectives. That's the arena, and utilities are the principles. And I think that's it, right? One more. Nothing is enough. Sometimes it's okay just to settle for little or even nothing. Why not? And I think I'll stop here at the Sunshine Summit. What a lovely name for a place. Let's pull in here as I finish the video. Nothing is enough. The last thing that I do, typically on this good life meditation, is I think about the day to come, which, since I'm doing this for tomorrow, I'll think about tomorrow. And I ask myself, what's likely to happen? What challenges am I going to face? Might I face? Still on? It's still on. I know the volume is down. What challenges am I going to face? Might I face? Tomorrow, I'm going to be faced with the challenge of a good impression, a good first impression. And first impression with people that already know me, and the establishment of good grounds for a good reputation with people who already know my reputation. What a silly thing. So I'm going to get up early in the morning, very early, and I'll do all my usual things, although I won't do my videos. I won't do a transcription tomorrow, and then I'll be on my way nice and early off to Riverside to begin a whole day process of orientation and getting ready to back in tune with my new position. And with that, I'll sign off. I wish you all the best. Good luck with any transitions that you have. So this one goes in the memory banks for trend on the margin scale. Okay. Take care. Be safe, but not too safe.